Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Stephen A. Williams, president and founder of the CreditRepairShop.com. Hope you enjoyed your holiday. And if it's past the holiday when you're watching this video, I had made this video right after the Thanksgiving holiday in 2022. Well, hey, in today's video, we're going to talk about three things. We're going to talk about HR 6862, which is very important if you're a renter and you've ever gotten into trouble during COVID. This will help you out. And then the overhauling of the credit reporting industry. Going to talk about a few things that they're going to start to do to kind of help consumers. And then the third thing we're going to talk about an MRI. And we all know what those initials stand for. We mainly know it for MRI. That's when they're going to do a deep x-ray, so to speak, of whatever is going on inside of your body. Maybe they want to see if you broke your arm or something wrong. I'm going to tell you my experience, and I'm going to relate my experience to your experiences if you're still dealing with credit issues and if you have overall financial issues. This is going to be something that can help you out. All right, so let's first talk about HR 6862. The House of Representatives has this bill in committee. It may not make it because we know that now things are going to switch over. Even though it's a good bill, a lot of things are going to, kind of just be left on the table just solely because there's a switch over with who's in power in the House of Representatives. But HR 6862 was to have anyone that was evicted during the national COVID shutdown or while the country was in a national emergency due to COVID, that it cannot be reported on your credit reports. And it had very good support on both sides of the aisle. It's just that I don't know if this is going to make it just because of what's going on with the fight over power. Some of the times good bills get left on the table just because when another party takes over in power, they want to push all of their bills and initiatives and everything. And that happens both ways. I know some people were like, well, Steve, you're always talking about the Republicans or the Democrats. This happens on both sides. So for whoever's thinking that way, I'm saying it loud and clear. It happens on both sides. Some stuff gets left on the table because when the parties take over control, they start pushing the things that they had on the table that they wanted to get done. So it's HR 6862. Keep your eyes on it if you are a renter and you did have an eviction or you had maybe you rent from a management company and they put the late payments on your credit reports. None of that information is going to be is supposed to be reported on your credit reports um, due to the national emergency that we have with COVID. Now let's talk about the overhauling of the consumer credit reporting agencies. They have been told and put on notice that they want this stuff to be worked out. So we'll have to see if it will be, because the thing about it is that they've been told this over and over and over and over and over again. But I guess repetition does make it to where things get better. So I'm not going to knock that. Maybe there's certain things that they find at another date that can make it better for everyone at a later date. So this one here is HR Ranking Member Waters, Maxine Waters out of California, HR 5282. Now this has actually been in the works for a long time, like 2016, but certain parts get enacted, certain parts don't get enacted, or it gets, the whole thing gets enacted in a watered down version, and then we see that there's still some issues that are happening. So uh, she wanted them, and this is HR 5282, and this was actually initiated in 2016. But we still see that there's issues that are happening, and it was to fix the dispute process. Now, this here, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because they are actually now overhauling the overhaul. You know, this is what, 8 years later? Wait, 6 years later, they're overhauling the overhaul because what they had did at this time, they felt that this would fix things, but what they didn't I guess maybe they just didn't think it would happen is that the bureaus would not follow through on their side of what they were supposed to be doing. So what they wanted to do is they said it wanted to fix the dispute process so that credit bureaus and furnishers, not consumers, bear the burden to prove the accuracy and completeness of credit information. We could see that there's issues still going on right now where you'll send out the stuff, and that's if they even do the investigation, and they'll send that information back saying that it's verified, and then they will ask you for information to prove what you're talking about on there, and you're saying what you put on there is the proof that it's not accurate. You need to look at your files to see if that information is accurate. It could be, and this could be just negative information where a furnisher who put the information on there inaccurate, they reported it inaccurate, balances, late payments, all of that information is inaccurate, and you can say right here on my credit reports is my evidence. That's my proof. What you got right there is the proof that this is not right. You could look from one bureau to another bureau, or it could be from a third party um, that purchased the debt, and they place that information on your credit reports, and all they had was just the last information from the original creditor, and they placed that information on your credit reports, and it's like that is not true. And they're trying to say that you bear the burden to prove that that's not true, and they had changed it back in 2016 to say that it is not true. You know, the burden is not on the consumer. But we see to this date that the burden that they place is on the consumer. That's why that you have to constantly follow up. You have to constantly do all of these different things to show that this information is inaccurate. And it seems that the more that you do to follow up on it, that you don't quit, it's like they just want people to quit. The people who don't quit get the job done. The people who quit don't get the job done. The next thing is they wanted to shorten the time that most adverse information can stay on individuals' credit reports to 4 years, removing paid and settled debts all together, like removing, like, and this is like settlement type debts, because you don't want to remove something that you paid from your history, that you paid on that car for 5 years and then had them remove that information off your credit report. You don't want to do that because the way the algorithm is written, it can make your scores go down. So when this information, and we already know that this part did not stay in the Consumer Reporting Act, because we know that it's still 7 years. They wanted to make it 4 years, so we can already see that this part of the that bill did not get enacted. The next thing was protecting the credit standings of victims of predatory and abusive practices related to foreclosures caused by discriminatory loans, delinquent or defaulted private education loans at obtained to attend deceptive for-profit colleges, or fraudulent credit items resulting from shady caregivers, abusive domestic partners, or family members. We already know that this is still very difficult to fight. We just had a client who was a straight up victim of a company that was actually had people inside. Now, check this out, and you can go online and look at this. It was Green Tree. They make loans, and they were doing, I guess, doing loans for Home Depot for customers who wanted to get loans. and get stuff at Home Depot. It was Green Tree. And flat out, we talked with our client on the phone, talked three-way call with Green Tree, and they stated flat out that he was a victim of identity theft. Also, there was a class action lawsuit, and they said that the people who were filling out the credit apps actually worked at that loan company. That's just what it said on there. Maybe there was some shady stuff going on. We saw what happened with Wells Fargo, where they were under that they had quotas and they had to make a certain amount of loans, and they were just doing it. They were just like filling out people's names, sending them the cards, and giving them loans. With this individual, someone filled out the information, and he never knew about it. And the thing, he's a business client. He's always paid cash, even for his home. It's like a couple $100,000. He had paid cash for his home, so he had never needed to use his credit. And then that day came, and I always talk about it. Like some people, you'll hear Dave Ramsey and all them talking about, don't worry about your credit and this and that. I'm telling you that that day will come that you will need your credit. We live in a credit society, and you better take care of it. And we'll get into that in a minute. But he needed his credit, and he started looking at his credit reports, and then he came to me and he said, "Steve, look at this stuff on here. None of this stuff is mine, or this information here is totally inaccurate. It's totally inaccurate. I never did that. He never had a loan with Green Tree and or Green Sky. I take that back. Green Sky. Never had a loan with Green Sky. And then there was some other information on there, and there was some medical bills that were on there. And it was like I had taken care of these medical bills. They were very little. We cleaned up all of that stuff. And also during the process, did a three-way call with Green Sky, and they stated that they see that it was a fraud. He gets a letter from the settlement administrator saying that they know that he was a victim of fraud. I mean, I guess they looked at the paperwork or looked at where stuff went, looked at his address. They were like, "You never applied. We know this for a fact, and you're in this settlement. You're going to get a couple $100 in that settlement." And we, did all of the stuff. Green Sky said that they're going to take it off the credit report. We took notes. We knew who we talked to. All of a sudden, months later, we're thinking that this was being taken care of. They're saying that it has to go through this so-called process. We're refreshing his reports, and the information is not being removed. And then all of a sudden, they're going to come and they're going to say that he has to fill out another form. That they sent him a form, and I said, "Did you get that form?" And he was like, "I didn't get anything in the mail." And we called him back. They said we sent it in an email, and then we looked. He looked in his email and he looked in the spam, and it was in the spam box. It was another form. So now, what does that have to do with this here? What it has to do a lot with it is that they had stated that they were not going to put the burden on the consumer. And even with this, where they were protecting credit standing of victims of predatory and abusive practices, they did not, and this is from 2016, they did not follow through with that process. And then also another thing that happened is that the furnisher, which is not supposed to happen, but it is still happening, and we, instead of challenging it, we just fill out the paperwork. But they're technically not supposed to make you fill out more paperwork to get something done that was when you're a victim of ID theft. Like they're telling people, hey, we know that you're a victim of ID theft, but we want you to fill out another form that from our company. And they've done that all the time where they've said, hey, we want you to fill out this, for ID theft. We run into this a lot. We'll fill out the information, send it to them, and then they'll come back and say, well, we want you to fill out our form. And technically, from the changes that were made recently, they're not supposed to have you had to fill out another document. You already stated your your reasoning and shown your proof of why you were a victim of ID theft. But in this case, they actually knew that he was a victim and they still wanted him to fill out more documentation. And he was also in the settlement. So this is crazy. Now, when it comes to abusive domestic partners, same thing. I've had clients where had came to us, and we had to set up well, we they had set up with different organizations, and we would work in conjunction with them to, number one, work on their credit, but make sure that the information was not sent to their last address, that it was sent to a special address that they gave them, and notifying if there's going to be a change in the social security number, or they were going to be given a different number, a TIN number, due to them having issues with a domestic abuse. And there's ways that we could either get their social security number changed, or they're going to be given that TIN number that they could utilize so they can stop being able to be tracked by that abusive partner. The next thing that they had wanted to do was they want rehabilitate. They talked about rehabilitating credit for distressed private education borrowers, and we talked a little bit about that. There was those schools that was out there where they were having people join the school. Basically, when I look at it, it was just to join the school to get a free laptop computer or desktop top computer in the past. And they were saying that they wanted to show that they can, get that information off their credit report if they demonstrated that they paid on those loans for a specific period of time, and if they were federal student loans, that they paid on those for a certain period of time. They want to be able to get those that information taken off their credit report, especially if it was one of the fraudulent schools. The next thing is they wanted to expand the access to free consumer reports and credit scores. They never did get the credit scores. They never did get the credit scores uh, added to the free reports. That still remains the same. There's, you know, if you go to free annual free credit report, I think that's what it is. They still don't give you the scores. It says here they wanted to also restrict the use of credit checks for employment purposes. Um, that was not stopped. They're still doing that. That wasn't that was not something that was changed. And then they wanted to have create federal oversight to monitor the development of the credit scoring model, and that was not. We already know that that uh, wasn't done. That they still maintain everything with the credit scoring model, and we see that the number one, nothing has really changed on the way that they're going to look at it. They're going to look at it on your time that you have with accounts. Going to look at your payment history. Going to look at the type of accounts. They're going to look at your unsecured type of accounts like credit cards. Those are going to play a big in the way that you pay those are going to pay a big difference. Your credit utilization rate, how much of your available credit are you using? That's going to pay a big price. And then just the time period that you've paid on specific debts, that's going to pay a big part on your credit scores being able to go up. Now, let's get into what I believe. I mean, all of that stuff is important, but I want to get into something that I believe is very important. I'm going to take a quick drink here. Over the about 3 weeks ago, I went in for MRI, and I went in for MRI on my knee. Now, to give you a little backstory on this, I had been struggling with problems with my knee for, I would say, for about the last 6 to 8 months. And I don't know what was going on. I thought that I had injured it working out, that it would get better, but it was actually getting worse. And I went to see the doctor specialist. They did a like a low, regular X-ray, and said that they don't see anything. They put me in physical therapy continue with that. And the problem was, this is the thing, is that I would have a burning sensation in my knee, and they said that that could be from arthritis, but it would get aggravated. I mean, really bad, to where I would be limping. Like for months, I was limping, and when I would sit down, I would have this pain that would go up my leg. There was pains in my calf, and the doctor said if it gets hot, you could have a blood clot. Like they were just just telling me all of this stuff, and gave me pain medication, which I don't take pain medication unless it's like severe. So I didn't really take much of that. I just dealt with the pain. I did take some of the stuff for the inflammation for a little bit, but it just didn't get better. I mean, the physical therapy, working the knee felt good, and I would do that working out. I could do things working out with my knee. It was still strong, but I had severe pain. I'm talking about so severe that on one of my vacations, it was so severe that it was like it was bone on bone. I had to get a cane, and my wife thought I was joking. And I said, I got to get something to help me get around. I cannot move. And we had to get back from the airport to home. Like it was just terrible pain. I did take painkillers at that time, and that still did not work. Like it was just like, if you can imagine your knee bone, just like it was just scraping on there. Like I didn't even want to bend my knee. I didn't want to walk on my knee. I could barely put any pressure on there. And so I went to the doctor. They did the X-rays, and we don't see nothing. And I was like, I went back, and I was like, something's got to be up, and I want to get an MRI. And he was like, that's very, it's expensive. I know you got insurance, but it's still expensive. We got to get it approved. And I said, I want to get the MRI. And so when I got the results back of the MRI, now I got the MRI about 3 weeks ago, and since that time, my knee has been, like, I'm talking about, like, getting better. I don't have the pain from sitting down. All of that stuff was going away. So all of that was like it like ex, what symptoms or extenuating issues from the one issue. So I had the calf issue, had in my thigh, the back of my thigh, from when I would sit down, and when I get up, I couldn't put pressure on my leg. I had to stretch it out to even be able to put pressure, even driving in a car. All of those things, I had all these other issues that was from the main issue. Now, when they looked at the MRI and they sent me the results, I had actually torn the I forget the exact word. I'm going to get it for you. Okay, this is what it said. It says that there is a complex tear at the body and posterior horn of the medial meniscus. This has both cranial and, is it caudal, surface involvement. The lateral meniscus is intact. So everything else was good with my knee. That's probably why I had strength in one direction, but I going side to side and all of that, it was bad. And also just the bone on bone, like it was just horrible. So actually, with the MRI, looking on the inside, I now know fully what was the problem. The doctor knows fully what was the problem. And now, now that my knee is getting better, like they said that you could have surgery or you may not need surgery. I'm not going to need surgery. I can feel like certain, number one, the knee is like 100% better, even more than that, getting better every day. But I could feel where there's either tendons or something growing back together. It's a weird feeling. My wife hates when I talk about it. Like in the morning when I wake up, it feels like a rubber band sometimes flips over my the side of my knee, and that's because either the nerves or whatever it was right there is grew back together, and it's just going to get bigger and bigger, and then all of a sudden it won't have that feeling, but it's weird. It doesn't hurt, but it's like a if you could just imagine a rubber band just like flipping over inside of your knee there. And but this is where it relates to credit. This is where it relates to credit repair. And I'm gonna come up with a new. I'm just developing a new system for auditing individuals' credit reports. Because when we're going to start auditing credit reports. We've always done that, but we're going to start auditing, doing an MRI on the individual. And look, this is a book that you should read it. I read it. Going to read sections of it again. It's called The New Psycho Cybernetics, and this is from Maxwell Maltz, MD. He was talking about being inside of a concentration camp, and where uh, he observed people in their situation and how people would start to become their situation, and that even though they may not be in a certain environment anymore, that they would still feel that they're in that environment. And the let me just tell you about it. What it talks about is a self-image, and they call it the snapback effect. And this is something that I see happen with a lot of people who come to us. Well, I won't say a lot, but it happens with people who come to us and we repair their credit. And there's something called a snapback effect. And the way he explains it is that, and we'll talk about it in utilizing the example that he had. He said that the person who has a fat self-image, whose self-image claims to have a sweet tooth, to be unable to resist junk food, who cannot find the time to exercise, will be unable to lose weight and keep it off no matter what he tries to do consciously in opposition to that self-image. You cannot you cannot long out outperform or escape your self-image. You cannot outperform or escape your self-image. And when people would come back to us that we repaired their credit and they found themselves back in that same situation again, this is a self-image. This is the way that they see themselves, and no matter what we did for them, they are having a hard time changing their self-image, so they find themselves back in that same situation. So I'm asking you if you because you're watching my video because you have a credit issue. You're watching my video because you want to learn more about how to improve your credit, how to get out of debt, maybe on business if you follow me about like the way that I built my company. Maybe you that inspires you and you like to listen to my words on and kind of because it relates to what you're trying to do for yourself. Maybe you have a credit repair business and you try to get somewhere and you're like, I might as well. I'm listening to him because I see that he has a successful credit repair business. And I could tell you that if when you cannot make changes, and I talk about this also where even if someone is trying to help you and you have a poor self-image, you believe that nothing can happen for you can go right, that even if someone tries to help you, that you just look with your like you it's like this thing that comes over you where you're waiting for the bad thing to happen. Like you come to get help with your credit, you come to get help with your debt, you come to work out settlements with creditors, and then but you expect the worst to happen. And that's what this is. You have that snapback that snapback effect. Like no matter what you try to do, you take two steps forward, you're gonna always go back to your self-image. And if you have a poor, negative, bad credit self-image, it's going to be very difficult for you to change it. It's going to be difficult for anyone else to keep you on track. Let me tell you an example. I love using examples. Uh, there was an individual that came to us. We repaired her credit, and there was two issues, that final issues, and we need to get the scores up. We got that job accomplished, and then there was a medical issue, medical collection that needed to get resolved. That actually was a paid, but it was still showing on her reports. And she might be watching this video right now. Because of that self-image, when she looked at the report, this is you got to understand how the subconscious mind works. This is an excellent example. When she looked at her credit reports, when she looked at her credit reports, she still saw the medical bill on there. But let me tell you something. The medical bill was not on her reports anymore. The medical bill was gone, but she still mentally saw that. She expected the worst. She didn't expect the good. She expected the worst. How about approaching, when you approach something, you just approach it with an open mind and you expect the best and let everything lay where it lays. But see, what happens is that everybody, not everybody, most people, and I can say most people because we can see how our society is what we can see the results of our society. You have a large pool of people who just live day to day, really are not getting anywhere. They're just going to work, you know, hoping and dreaming, playing the lottery, looking for different ways to get a hustle on getting a new credit card and applying for that and running that bill up and trying to figure out how to get off their credit reports. We have a large big pool of that. And then you go to that next level, that middle class level, making good income but living day to day, still living paycheck to paycheck, and mainly living the way that their parents live, might be living a little bit better, but still over financed, not really getting anywhere. And then you have that top level that has time freedom, has money, has excellent credit, uh, being able to do things that they love to do, still had the ups and downs, still has day, problems like everybody else, but it just seems that they're just running at a different level. And I'm here to tell you that really the difference between that level and the lower level where most people stay at in that middle level is really the self-image. I had to go through changes with my self-image. And as a matter of fact, each level that you want to ascend to in your life, it doesn't matter if it's going to be something on physical, if it's going to be something financial, you're going to have to change your self-image, because if you don't believe that you deserve that, if you don't become that individual, there's nothing that you can do to sustain it. You're going to keep going backwards. You're going to keep trying to do things instead of just doing things. When I talk about the way that we repair credit, and reason why I always talk about it in my video at the end is because I say we use an 8-point validation, two-phase settlement process. Because if you're serious about repairing your credit, if you're serious about repairing your credit, you will have a dispute process with the bureaus. You have a dispute process with furnishers, and ultimately you could potentially have a process with settlements. And if you don't get it in your mind that that is a part of the potential outcome, which is I'm going to have to become an individual that's going to have to stand up for these debts that I had and figure out a way out of them, instead of just running and going for one video to the next, trying to figure out some type of gimmick or scheme to do away with debt that you actually did have with an original creditor, if it's proven, if it's 100% validated and verified, if you want to move from having bad credit to good credit, wouldn't it be logical to say that that's going to probably be in the mix of the process? But a lot of people, what they do is they stay with that poor mentality. They stay with that poor mentality. This is the poor mentality. Poor mentality is that you think that money is limited. So the money that you're going to pay to get rid of that situation, to clear your mind, to get that off of your shoulders, you think that that's your last. Excuse me. You think of it subconsciously that it's your last, even though consciously you know that it's not your last. Subconsciously, because you have a poor self-image, it's like that's my last, and I don't want to part with it. And I know because I've went through that situation before, and I'm here to tell you from experience that when you deal with that, you're able to move forward on the other side. A lot of times, the way to change your poor self-image, to get rid of the snapback effect, is to just let things happen and go and change and start practicing to become that person. That's why when it was a good example about how a person who's fat, overweight, the way that they see themselves, and that they can't see themselves exercising every day. They can't see themselves eating right every day. They can't see themselves doing that, so they just keep stacking on to that poor self-image. So when they try to step out, everybody's going to be trying to do that pretty soon on January 1st, and you're going to see every like 99% of them are going to have a snapback effect. So wouldn't it be to your advantage to think about the snapback effect more than the other side, doing an MRI on yourself to see why you keep getting into these situations? Why are you in that situation? Do an MRI on yourself. Let's just call it a credit MRI. Why are you continually having these same issues? If it's over and over again, or why? What is the problem? Why did you even get into that issue? And be upfront. Like, let's find the root cause, the MRI, and then work from there so things can get better. Sometimes when you do the MRI, like what happened to me, it's going to get better because subconsciously you know you're about to get the answer. And that, like, so think about this. With my knee, I did the MRI, no medical intervention after that, no medicine, no pills, no supplements, none of that stuff. And by me knowing that this is going to tell me what is wrong, my knee, now you might say, some people might say, well, it was going to start to repair itself at that time anyway. Does that matter? What matters is that I know, and from that, like, it started getting better before I knew what was going on. But could it be possible also that because I was going to know 100% what the issue was, that subconsciously I had changed, and that I was going to start to have a different outcome? And that's what happens when I see someone with their during the credit repair process, and we talk to them, and I hear the conversations with my customer service staff, and they'll tell an individual, hey, okay, you let's let's look at your situation. You came to us, and we see this list of stuff that we've been working on, and we notice that you haven't even been logging into your portal to see that, number one, work is being done. Number two, you actually have deletions from the information that was not able to be proven on your credit reports. And you don't know that. But right now, you have that feeling inside of you that just wants you to be like disappointed. Like this, I mean, and I talk to my staff about this, that there's a mental side to credit repair, and then there's the technical side with doing the processes and all of that. And I talk to them about that. I say that we have to get people to understand, and not everybody is ready for it, but this is the way that we got to do it. Is that we got to get them to understand, number one, that some of the things, some of the issues that they have during this process is totally things that's made up in their mind. That they just, because they have a self-image, that things always goes wrong for them. Things went wrong with another company. Things went wrong when they tried to do it themselves, and it has to go wrong for me to remain the person that I am. And we always want to remain who we are, because if we can't remain who we are, that's like our last level of self-control. And even if you don't control who you are, you think you control who you are, even though you're being controlled by outside forces on telling you what to think, how to feel, how to react, everything. You have to take that control. And we talk about to our customers, you need to, number one, look at the situation, look at, number one, get data. If you would have looked and got the data, you would have saw that things are being done. And then, but that's just the technical side. Let's have a quick 10-minute conversation about how you need to be thinking to move forward, because that's actually a destructive habit. Having things done for you and you don't even take the time to look at what's being done, to even see that the process is just grinding on, even if there was no results there yet. That is a poor habit, because again, even though you've paid us to take care of this for you, you should still stay engaged. And when we say engage, that means that look at the process that we're going through, and that you know that we're working. But then for yourself, what are you changing on yourself? Because that MRI tells us that you have some issues internally that you need to work on to be able to get you to that next level, that you need to work on. It's not just the outside. See, that doctor could have sent me to therapy, could have had me do all of that stuff. That's all external. There was something legitimately wrong on the inside with my knee. And until that was going to be fixed, there was nothing on the outside that was going to be able to repair it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. And again, get the book, The New Psycho-Cybernetics, Matthew Maltz, and start working on that internal self-image. Work on that. Make that your goal. Write it down, uh, and make those changes so you can be in a better place. If you need help with your credit, please visit us at thecreditrepairshop.com. Watch the video what makes us different, so you can see my 8-point validation process, my 2-phase settlement process. If you need your credit reports and scores, go to the website yourthenumber3scores.com to get your TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian credit reports in all 3 scores. And in the comment section, this is why it's very important. In the comment sections, you can see what those creditors or furnishers with third-party debt collectors are actually saying about the information that they've reported. So you can see what the next steps that can be taken to deal with those. If you have debt collectors coming after you, grab my 3-pack of letters. I have a free version. You can please make a donation that helps me monetize the time that I make for the time that I take to make these videos. And then I have a paid version. It's only $29.95. It has some updated information that I've added to those documents. Thank you for your time. Please subscribe to the channel. Please post your questions and comments. This is Stephen A. Williams, President and Founder of thecreditrepairshop.com.